It's my pleasure to invite to the stage Emma Jameson and David Hamill.
Good afternoon. My name is Emma Jameson, and I'm a senior at Brewer High School. I'm currently a member of the softball, soccer, and indoor track teams, and also a current member of the student athlete leadership team. It gives me great pleasure to tell you about Hall of Fame inductee Mike Jeffrey. Following his personal career as a successful student athlete, both on the track and soccer field, Mr. Jeffrey went on to establish both boys and girls first soccer programs in 1985 at Brewer High School. He coached the boys team for the next decade and is undoubtedly the most successful soccer coach in school history. Drawing on his experiences as a collegiate soccer player and a few years of coaching programs at UMaine and MDI High School, he emphasized focusing the first few years of the program on fundamentals. From 1990 through 94, the boys team became a force in Eastern Maine soccer, making the playoff tournament every season, including 2 appearances at the Eastern Maine Class A Regional Championships. He coached the best soccer players Brewer has ever seen, including other Hall of Fame inductees. His passion for the sport extends beyond his own personal skills and coaching record. Mr. Jeffrey is well respected throughout the state in the world of soccer, and he has been the liaison to the Maine Principals Association Soccer Committee since 1989, a position usually held by active coaches. He's also the president of the Maine Soccer Coaches Association since its inception in 1989. He developed and maintains a website for the MSCA and is respected as the sole premier authority on soccer history in Maine, including records in every school and coach. At this time, I'm honored to introduce David Hamill to present Mike Jeffrey for induction into the Brewer Athletic Hall of Fame.
Some of those statistics kind of hurt, especially talk about 90 and 94 time frame, because I was on the losing end of a lot of those games, which made me wonder why when Michael called me and asked me to present, I kind of asked the question why. I was an adversary, but I'm going to tell you why. My relationship with Michael is a long and winding one, all somehow connected to really 2 of our favorite things, soccer and history. I met him for the first time around 1989, 1990, as I was entering high school, ATR. Mr. Kaya, across the river, ATR. The next few years of my high school experience was centered around trying to defeat Brewer, which may have happened a few times in the regular season, but never when it really mattered in the playoffs. One of my favorite memories as a high school student athlete, though, was the opportunity to play soccer outside of the season and in between my basketball and baseball seasons. See, premier and travel soccer didn't exist back then, and there were really no indoor facilities. Michael would open up the gym at the old middle school building, the now current superintendent's office, and indoor soccer would be played in the winters. The best part is that he invited everybody. It was for everyone, not just his Brewer boys. No coaching, no instruction, just play. He did that because he loved the game and cared about kids, regardless of the school they attended. And Mr. Utterback, this was not an MPA violation at the time. There was no out-of-season coaching rules. Maybe that's why there are, though. Who knows? I went to as many of these as I could because I loved the game, and I was one of the few who attended who wasn't from Brewer. It also started my friendships with many of the Brewer soccer players that still exist today. I can confidently say that it was at this time that I started to get to know Michael on a personal level, and a mutual respect began. Another story, another time when our paths crossed, was around 1994, 1995, of all places in the North Maine woods. My father, he's a registered Maine guide, and he took me on many Allagash Wilderness Waterway canoe trips. On one trip, we stopped to see the abandoned trains between Eagle and Chamberlain Lakes. And who did we run into? Michael and his oldest son, Jay, doing the same things that my dad and I were doing. We said hello, of course. We chatted about history, and I'm sure a little bit of soccer banter, and we went on our way downriver. A day or 2 later, it had started raining, and everything was wet. And if you know Mike, he's a Boy Scout, and he wanted his boys to be Boy Scouts. And so when you're on the river, you do Boy Scout things. And so he started a fire. Well, he tried to start a fire. Everything was wet, the leaves, the kindling. And as we approached the campsite, of course, we had already known each other prior anyway, and my dad saw him and walked up to the fire and proceeded to squeeze about half a bottle of lighter fluid onto the fire and onto the wood, lit it up, and I'll give you the G-rated version of what my father said. Enough of that Boy Scout nonsense. Now you got a fire. So you're welcome, Michael. We saved you that day. In later years, while attending college and for about a decade or so after, Michael and I became teammates. We played many summer leagues and indoor men's leagues together until really our bodies couldn't handle it anymore, and then we played a few more seasons. I even had the chance to coach or play with all three of his sons. Then, in 2015, while coaching girls soccer here in Brewer, Michael asked me to join the Maine soccer coaches, and I have been his sidekick, the vice president, ever since. Most recently, as the idea of the Maine Soccer Hall of Fame has gone from a dream to a reality, he and I represented the Maine soccer coaches as board members. And in our first Maine Soccer Hall of Fame induction class, to be honored this coming December, Michael is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Earlier, I mentioned that two of his greatest loves are history and soccer. I'd be remiss not to mention the most important thing to Michael. Greater than any award or accolades he'll ever receive, he is a family man. The love for his wife and boys cannot be explained in words. But now, as time has passed, his greatest treasures are his grandchildren, all 8 of them. And to listen to him talk about them it's amazing. So in all those years, going back to the original question, why did he ask me? Well, he's been an adversary, he's been a teammate, he's been a fellow history buff, he's been a colleague, we've refereed games together, someone I look up to, a voice to listen to when he calls. If you've gotten a phone call from him, you know that can be long. But of all the titles that I share with Michael, the one I cherish the most is that he is my friend. Congratulations, Michael Jeffrey.
Thank you, David. Very kind words, and that's a true story on the Allagash. It was wet, and the lighter fluid worked very well. Also like to congratulate the other inductees. It's really special to be with you today. Other thank yous are also necessary at this moment. Thank you to David Gregory, a Hall of Fame inductee, and Tommy Coleman for my nomination. Their effort is greatly appreciated. Thank you also to the Brewer Hall of Fame committee for judging that my nomination was worthy of induction this afternoon. I must note that I have always been so impressed with the Brewer Hall of Fame. It is the gold standard for high school Hall of Fames. So impressed that recently, as David already recanted, soccer coaches recently established the initial Maine Soccer Hall of Fame. About time, by the way. I think we were the only ones that didn't have one. And they stole, sorry David and Kathy, every aspect of Brewer's process. And it was really easy to do. So thank you. I'm admitting to the crime. I must also comment on the expectations in this room at this moment. There's a significant number of people over here to my left that have bet against me getting through this. Thus, I have brought an assistant, but it was pointed out to me that it's the wrong color. There are also a number of people, I love that they're here, mainly my biking buddies, who got a kick out of the notion that I could only talk for 7 minutes. Obviously, a huge thank you to my family, especially putting up with my endless archive pursuits. I've become an archivist. I'm no longer a coach. I just look for little nuggets. A nugget is something I've discovered by accident, and then I tend to talk about it for months. As many of you know, I married a Brewer girl. That set my fate. It was a done deal from that day on. We met at the Brewer Rec in 1979. I was a lifeguard at the Brewer pool, and Elena was a rec specialist. That was when my wonderful journey at Brewer began and LBA ended. Anyone want to guess what LBA means? Life before Elena. That 40-year journey made Brewer my little corner of the world, both in 3 classrooms at the high school, up the street, and on the athletic fields. More specifically, before this beautiful school was built, the piece of land we are standing on right now was called Pendleton Street Field. It housed a soccer field, a field hockey field, and a track. My brother and I figure that I'm presently standing on the soccer sideline around midfield next to the track straightaway. Pendleton Fields were a significant place of activity for members of our family. My first experience with Pendleton Street was umpiring the Brewer Men's Softball League before I met Elena. Then it was just a softball field, no track, no soccer field, no field hockey field. After the track, soccer field, and field hockey fields were completed, I went there to coach soccer players and track and field throwers during the next seasons, for each season over the next 20 years. Jay and Ryan had to go to my practices. Elena was working 2 jobs and attending the University of Maine nursing program. They attended almost daily and routinely either ended up taped to the goalpost or stuffed into a ball bag. So much for my watchful eye. I think sometimes I was more concerned about the other 22 than the 2. They also, if any of you looked at the memorabilia, in a lot of the team pictures you see 2 little lug nuts standing there. That's Jay and Ryan. They were usually the ball boys for Brewers home games. I do want to take a moment to actually talk about Elena. During her field hockey years, they played their home games at Pendleton Street Field. She was an outstanding 3-sport athlete and a goalkeeper on the PVC championship team in 1977. That year, according to the yearbook, she had 7 shutouts in 12 games, which still could be a school record. I'm going to find that out, by the way. I once also observed her leg out an inside park home run in the Bangor Women's Softball League. Boys, I think that's where you got your athletic talent. Middle son Ryan completed his Eagle Scout project building 2 bridges, making wet spots easier for spectators. Sadly, with the passing of Pendleton Street Field, both Ryan's and, I should note, Mike Coleman's Eagle Scout projects no longer exist. Mike Coleman, by the way, was one of the first varsity soccer players at Brewer who built a goal-sized kickboard, which was used, if you look at the yearbooks, was used to stage most of the team pictures. Had a big Brewer witch painted on it, and it said Home of the Witches. The school across the river, that was for you, Dennis, also benefited from an Eagle Scout project when Jay built 2 dugouts on the grass field behind the high school, and I'm pleased to say that those 2 exist today, and I believe are still being used. So Pendleton Street definitely became my corner. It was where I could drive 5 minutes from our home. We've lived there for 43 years. Work when I wanted, many times with my brother, David, building locker rooms or bleachers, planting trees, or laying down watering pipes. The police used to come up and shine their light on me at 2 o'clock in the morning, and eventually they realized that's just that stupor coach watering the field. It was also a piece of memorable games, including a place of memorable games, including playoff wins, disappointing losses, and soccer feats. The first Maine soccer coaches Senior Bowl was played there. Oliver Gartenbroker, our wonderful foreign exchange student from Germany, scored an amazing full volley from the center circle from over 50 yards out from the goal. Finally, I'd like to thank you, the Brewer community, for letting me teach and coach their student athletes for 33 years. Though it is not about Pendleton, I would also like to thank my youngest son, Kyle, born 15 years after Jay and Ryan, who gave our family what I call the moment. Blasting a hard penalty kick shot to the left side net without hesitation. Game over. Class A state champions. Sorry. Special thanks to Perry Jordan, Bill Fletcher, Dennis Kyer, and Bill Lighthizer for having faith in me. Now in retirement, my corner of the world is road tripping with Elena, or on my specialized bike riding with my much ado about biking buddies on the many new paved, have you seen them all? Roads in the Bangor Brewer area, or down in Maryland when I visit 6 of my 8 grandkids. Finally, Bud and Pat would surely be proud of their boys. Thank you.